On August 21, 2025, a New York appeals court delivered a landmark ruling in the long-running civil fraud case against President Donald Trump, striking down the massive $500 million penalty that had been imposed by a lower court. The appellate judges upheld the underlying finding that Trump and his businesses had engaged in years of financial misrepresentation, but they ruled that the nearly $500 million disgorgement was unconstitutional because it violated the Eighth Amendment's prohibition against excessive fines. This decision represents a major legal and political development for Trump, removing what had been one of the most severe financial threats facing his real estate empire. The original ruling in February 2024 by Justice Arthur Engoron ordered Trump to pay $355 million in penalties, which with accrued interest exceeded $454 million and continued to climb. Engoron found that Trump, his adult sons, and senior executives had routinely inflated asset values to secure better loans and insurance deals. Examples included claiming that the Trump Tower penthouse was nearly 3 times its actual size and valuing Mar-a-Lago at hundreds of millions of dollars more than its realistic market worth. The court also banned Trump, Donald Trump Jr., and Eric Trump from serving in leadership positions at any New York-based company for years. Trump appealed the ruling, putting up a $175 million bond to pause enforcement. The appellate panel, after nearly a year of review, issued a divided opinion that recognized the fraud but concluded that the scale of the penalty was disproportionate. Judges noted that no banks or insurers lost money because loans were repaid and that no lenders filed lawsuits claiming they were defrauded. This fact, combined with constitutional protections against excessive fines, led the court to vacate the financial penalty. However, the judges left intact restrictions that prevent Trump and his sons from managing corporations in New York for a set period. The appeals court stressed that while the Attorney General's case proved fraudulent practices, the monetary judgment went too far. The ruling highlighted that civil fraud penalties must align with constitutional limits, even when misconduct is proven. One judge argued that the Attorney General exceeded her authority, since the parties most affected, the lenders, chose not to bring claims themselves. Another described the penalty as punitive rather than remedial, crossing into unconstitutional territory. For Trump, the decision was immediately hailed as a victory. He called the Attorney General's case a politically motivated attack designed to damage him financially during his presidential campaign. His legal team argued that the appeals court had finally recognized the excessiveness of the original judgment. Trump has long insisted that his financial statements contained disclaimers urging lenders to do independent due diligence and that the loans were profitable for all parties involved. Attorney General Letitia James, who brought the case, expressed disappointment but emphasized that the fraud findings remain intact. She framed the ruling as proof that Trump systematically lied about his wealth for years, even if the monetary punishment has been reduced. James has the option to seek review from New York's highest court, the Court of Appeals, which could either restore part of the penalty or let the appellate ruling stand. The Department of Justice is also reportedly investigating whether James overstepped in her aggressive pursuit of Trump. Some critics argue that the lawsuit was politically motivated, given James's public campaign promises to target Trump. Supporters counter that the case exposes systemic fraud and shows no one, not even a president, is above the law. The case has broad legal implications. It underscores the difficulty of setting penalties in cases where the fraud is serious but the economic harm is less tangible. Legal scholars say the ruling could become a precedent for future challenges to large disgorgement orders, especially in cases where damages are not directly measured in financial losses to victims. The court's reliance on the Eighth Amendment will likely influence how state attorneys general craft remedies in complex financial fraud cases going forward. In practical terms, the vacated penalty spares Trump from having to pay hundreds of millions that could have endangered his real estate holdings. Yet the restrictions on business leadership remain, potentially limiting his ability to manage or expand operations in New York. Political analysts say the ruling strengthens Trump's image among supporters as someone unfairly targeted by the legal system but vindicated on appeal. For opponents, it remains a reminder of his business practices and the confirmed fraud. This ruling comes amid Trump's other legal battles, including federal and state criminal indictments, creating a complex web of litigation with political consequences as he campaigns for re-election. The decision removes one of the heaviest financial clouds over him but leaves unresolved questions about accountability and the limits of state enforcement powers. In summary, the appeals court ruling represents both a victory and a setback for Trump. The fraud findings stand, but the crushing financial penalty is gone. The judgment reinforces constitutional protections against excessive fines while affirming that Trump misrepresented his wealth for years. Whether the Attorney General seeks further appeal remains to be seen, but for now Trump avoids a $500 million blow to his finances, gaining momentum at a critical political moment.